The smell of freshly brewed coffee usually signifies the start of a productive day, a gentle reminder of the comfortable, predictable life I'd built. But that morning, it was the acrid scent of burnt toast and a bitter taste in my mouth that defined everything. I was on the sofa, nursing a sprained ankle, a ridiculous, avoidable injury from an amateur soccer league game, when Sarah, my fiancée of 3 years, walked in with a laptop, her face perfectly composed, like a beautiful, predatory stone statue. "Liam," she started, her voice unnervingly even. "We need to talk about the wedding budget." I nodded, figuring she'd found a cheaper florist. "That's not what happened." She slid the laptop toward me. The screen wasn't showing catering invoices. It was a spreadsheet, titled Contingency Plan, post Liam. "I've been tracking our expenses for the last 6 weeks," she explained, pointing to a column highlighted in aggressive red. "Since your little injury, you've been nothing but a drain. Physiotherapy, lost work hours, delivery food, it's all a net negative. Frankly, Liam, you're a burden. Cut deeper than the torn ligaments in my ankle." But that wasn't the unthinkable part. That came next, delivered with the cold precision of a corporate presentation. She looked me dead in the eye, and with a disturbingly calm expression, she said, "I've already filed for a temporary restraining order and a division of assets. I figured out how to lock you out of the apartment lease before the landlord can even object. I did it last night while you were asleep. The lawyer says if you're deemed medically unfit to work, it simplifies the financial instability argument for the annulment." I didn't just feel shock. I felt the floor drop out from under me. A part of me, the sarcastic, logical part, managed a dry, shaky response. "A restraining order? Sarah, I can barely walk. I'm a threat to what? Your throw pillows?" But the truth was, in the space of 3 minutes, my life, my stability, and my sense of reality had been vaporized. 72 hours later, things escalated into a legal nightmare I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. The mirage of the perfect partnership. To understand the sheer audacity of her move, you need to understand the relationship we had, or at least, the one I thought we had. We were Liam and Sarah, the power couple with the aesthetically pleasing Brooklyn apartment, the golden retriever named Gus, and the meticulously planned future. I worked in tech sales, Sarah in financial consulting. We were both ambitious, both earning well. We'd been together 5 years, engaged for 3. Our relationship wasn't some fiery, melodramatic romance. It was a partnership based on logic, shared goals, and mutual respect. Or so I believed. I was the one who handled the lease, the utility bills, and the bulk of the domestic duties, a fact I now realize was a crucial strategic oversight. Sarah managed the investments, the long-term savings, and the wedding fund. We operated on a system of mutual trust and separate, but equal, financial autonomy. The injury, a simple grade 2 sprain, was supposed to be a hiccup. A 2-week break from the gym, a month of working from home. I was annoyed, sure, but Sarah was the picture of support. She'd bring me ice packs, make my protein shakes, and patiently listen to my frustrated ranting. She even brought me the laptop from work, saying, "Just keep up with your emails, honey. We're a team." The truth, which only dawned on me later, was that she wasn't supporting me. She was studying me. She was compiling the evidence. Every DoorDash receipt, every session with the physical therapist, every time I'd said, "Can you just grab that, please?" was a tick mark in the burden column. She was calculating the cost of my temporary vulnerability and finding it unacceptable. The chilling, methodical nature of the betrayal was the real gut punch. It wasn't a fight, a drunken mistake, or a sudden emotional breakdown. It was a premeditated, financially motivated eviction, delivered with the composure of a quarterly earnings report. The shock wore off quickly, replaced by a cold, hard scramble for survival. I tried to call her bluff. "You're not serious, Sarah. We have a life here. Gus is here." Her response was clinical. "Gus is registered under my name," the lawyer advised, moving swiftly. "The lease has been reassigned to me. You need to be out by the end of the day. Your key code is already deactivated. I've put your belongings in storage, and I left the storage unit key on the counter with a check for 3 months' rent for a temporary place." That's when I knew she wasn't just breaking up with me. She was dismantling me. I immediately called my best friend, Mike, a corporate lawyer who thankfully practices family law on the side for particularly egregious cases. I gave him the TLDR version. Mike's initial reaction was a string of creative profanity, followed by the kind of strategic thinking I desperately needed. "This is a preemptive strike, Liam. She's using the injury to claim you're an unstable, high-risk partner, giving her leverage to seize the assets and walk away clean before the wedding. We have to move faster and cleaner. Sarah had already drained a portion, but Mike was able to flag the transactions as suspicious, locking the rest down in a legal holding pattern. Next came the apartment. I managed to use the spare key I kept hidden, a ridiculous paranoid habit that suddenly felt genius, to get back inside for 30 minutes. I didn't grab clothes. I grabbed the things that mattered. The original signed lease agreement, the digital backups of our financial statements, and the deed to the vintage car my grandfather left me. The only significant asset she hadn't managed to weave into her contingency plan. She had already changed the Wi-Fi password. The utter pettiness was almost a source of dry amusement amidst the panic. The temporary restraining order hearing was a low-stakes skirmish, but it was psychologically devastating. Sarah, impeccably dressed and radiating cool confidence, painted a picture of a victimized woman forced to protect her financial future from an unpredictable, temporarily incapacitated fiancé. She used my sprained ankle, the inability to climb stairs unaided, and the fact I was temporarily out of commission from my sales job as proof of my supposed unstable financial condition, and even implied a risk of emotional volatility. My lawyer, Mike, was magnificent. He didn't try to fight the emotional war. He fought the financial and logical one. "Your Honor," he stated, calmly presenting the evidence. "Mr. My last name is a high-earning professional with a documented work-from-home policy. His injury is a sports injury, not a life-altering disability. This isn't about safety or volatility. It's about financial opportunism." Ms. Sarah's last name initiated this action and filed for the asset freeze before any legal grounds existed. The timeline shows a clear intent to weaponize a temporary physical setback for permanent financial gain. Then came the main revelation, the thing that swung the pendulum. Mike produced a copy of a text message Sarah had sent me a week before the injury, which I had almost forgotten about. It was her venting about a colleague. "I'm so sick of pretending to be invested in this corporate rat race. I just want to manage my investments and travel." Mike laid it out. The defendant's goal was not to protect herself, but to exit the relationship with a substantial immediate cash injection, the wedding fund, to fund a new work-free lifestyle. This temporary restraining order is an attempt to legally strong-arm my client out of his own home and assets. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with tired eyes, saw right through it. She looked at Sarah, who was suddenly looking a lot less composed. Motion denied. The restraining order is dismissed. The asset freeze remains pending a full divorce hearing, given the complexity of the funds, but Mr. My last name is to be granted temporary access to the apartment to retrieve his remaining personal property and is allowed to retrieve his dog, Mr. Gus, immediately. The relief was physical. I walked out of that courthouse with Mike, feeling like I could finally take a deep breath. I still had the main fight ahead of me, but I had won the first skirmish and, more importantly, I had Gus back. The little guy, oblivious to the drama, was thrilled to see me, which was all the emotional closure I needed at that moment. The subsequent divorce proceedings were a tedious, months-long grind, the kind of soul-sucking process that makes you question the point of any legal system. Sarah's legal team tried every manipulative tactic in the book, trying to claim common-law marriage, despite living in a state where it was explicitly not recognized, inflating the value of her own contributions, and even trying to get a percentage of my future earnings. But the early advantage Sarah thought she had, the element of shock and the claim of my instability, was gone. Mike and I were methodical. We had the documents. We had the timeline of her betrayal. We focused only on the numbers. In the end, we achieved a settlement that was, as Mike put it, unemotional and equitable. Sarah was forced to return the portion of the wedding fund she had prematurely drained. The bulk of the shared assets, including the equity appreciation on the apartment lease, were split down the middle, a fair division of what we had built together. I walked away with my financial stability intact and, most importantly, with Gus in the car. I moved out of Brooklyn and into a quiet place upstate. The apartment she'd tried to weaponize now felt sterile and cold. I changed my number, blocked her on every platform, and deleted every photo. The hardest part wasn't the financial loss. It was accepting that the person I had planned to spend my life with was nothing more than a highly skilled financial predator who viewed a temporary vulnerability as a green light for exploitation. A year later, I look back with a strange sense of calm. The betrayal was unthinkable, but the response was strategic, logical, and ultimately successful. The lesson I took from this entire chaotic, ridiculous situation is simple. Trust is not an asset. It's a liability you choose to take on. And in any partnership, you need an exit strategy. even if it's just a file box with your own set of financial documents and a hidden spare key. I'm working with a new company, Gus is thriving, and my ankle is perfectly healed. The experience didn't make me jaded. It made me sharper, more discerning, and weirdly funnier. Because honestly, what else can you do but laugh dryly at a person who tries to evict you via PowerPoint presentation? And that, I realized, is the ultimate win. I lost a fiancé, but I gained my sovereignty. What's your story of the biggest curveball life ever threw you? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of betrayal, bad decisions, and surprisingly strategic revenge.